Hi, welcome to the Golden Years, Understanding Better Living. I'm Phylis Ayman, your host. Today we are so pleased to have with us Nora Duncan, the Connecticut State Director of AARP, to provide valuable information on a wide array of benefits and services available for anyone over the age of 50. Hi Nora, thanks so much for being here. I know you have a very busy schedule.
I really am happy to be here, so thanks for having me.
Great. I started out saying about anyone over the age of 50, and I wanted to ask you about that because, I myself are considerably older than 50, and I was reluctant to become a member of AARP because I think I had this perception that it was only for older people and for retirees.
Yep.
So do you encounter that? Can you speak about that?
I encounter that a lot, a little bit less than I used to. In America, there's this stigma about getting old, and we're working really hard to change that because aging is changing. We actually have a program called Disrupt Aging that was started by our CEO, Joanne Jenkins. She wrote a book called Disrupt Aging, but the concept there being our attitude about aging is so entrenched in our societal norms to be negative. Well, why is it negative? We're all aging. Every time I take a breath, I'm getting older.
Absolutely, from the time we're born.
Yeah.
We were talking beforehand that when I was much younger, I don't know if it's the same way now, when you turn 30, you were over the hill. And I think the stigma has to do with the verbiage, and that really, kind of reinforces that attitude about being old and usefulness and, oh, you're over the hill kind of thing.
Everything you just said is completely true. If 30's over the hill, I'm wondering why there's so many 30-year-olds living with their parents. But
I love that one.
Yeah. So, it's really, we have a lot of scientific data that actually shows us that your attitude about aging will actually affect how you age.
Absolutely.
And people are not 50 and dead. People are 50 and working for another 25 years and vibrant and living for another 25 years after that.
Absolutely.
We're entering the 100-year life. And AARP membership is 38 million strong in the United States and almost 600,000 here in Connecticut. And more than a third of our members are working. They're not retired. And more and more and more people are working well into what was previously considered traditional retirement age because they have to, because they want to, because that's what we do. We work. We're productive. And, we also have at AARP a large number of volunteers. And our volunteers do tend to be people who are retired, but some of them are doing 50, 60 hours a week of volunteer work with us because they're so passionate about what they do and because they do have so much to offer in terms of experience and knowledge. And, when people see, any age people see, one of my volunteers is almost 90, and I have some that are in their 40s. But when they see this 90-year-old out doing so much, they're inspired. I've got volunteers changing the face of aging on a regular basis, and we all know things are different than they used to be, and we all accept that, but we also still accept cards with, coffins on them when we turn 50.
Absolutely.
We don't do that for anything else.
No, absolutely. I've also written a couple of books, and I talked about this in my first book also, which was a few years ago, just about that very thing. And I think that with technology especially, younger people sometimes think that, because you push a button and get information on Google, that's really all you need. Yep. And the usefulness of the older person, isn't as valuable, whereas, with programs like AARP has, people come to realize the wealth of information that comes from experience that older people can provide that you can't get from Google or any other search engine.
No, you can't. And we also talk about this for the workplace, where there are 5 generations of people working right now, often in the same place. And the value that an intergenerational workforce brings to a company is proven time and time again to be there, to be the kind of, to create innovation, to have ideas that are different than a company that has maybe one age range of employees. I mean, where do you get innovation when everybody has the same experience growing up, the same?
Oh, absolutely.
Age is another component of diversity.
Absolutely.
And
I like that.
It is. I mean, because I've got a staff at my office that range from their mid-30s to their almost late 60s. And they each come at things from a different direction. And that's really great because when they combine their ideas, I usually end up with the best product.
You know, I was just thinking as you were saying that years ago, people kind of, or companies forced people out at 65. But I think it's happening, but maybe not as much because there is this intergenerational respect that people are starting to value.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say age discrimination isn't real, because it is, and we fight it both legally and through attitudes and norms every single day at AARP. And people still get forced out, and people still talk about discrimination in the workplace. But I think there is a awareness raised now, particularly when certain companies, larger companies, or companies that manufacturers in Connecticut, for instance, are horrified because they're about to lose a significant chunk of their employees to retirement, and they're actually doing things to try to retain their older workers. Yeah, because, and actually we're doing a really interesting pipeline project on manufacturing here in Connecticut. But I mean, they want to retain people because they don't have the bodies to fill the space.
I was just going to say younger people are probably not going into that industry.
And we are trying to encourage them to do so, but in a couple of ways. One is well, I'm trying to do two things. Actually working with community colleges, Goodwin College, some high schools in Connecticut to help recruit retired manufacturers to come into the classroom to instruct.
Oh, that's great.
Because the demand for the classes is growing because there are so many jobs in manufacturing and because it is a short way to almost guaranteed employment with significant room for advancement over time. So they need instructors and they want the real life experience of people who have been in manufacturing to come into the classroom. So that's a really interesting workforce development, economic driver issue that we're working on in Connecticut. But at the same time, that helps us get young people educated to go into an in-demand field that has multiple generations in it. And we're also encouraging through two things. One is a scholarship that I actually haven't even announced publicly yet.
Oh,
to
so
help.
Let's hear about that. This is breaking news.
Yeah,
this is terrific for our listeners.
We've got a scholarship through the community colleges in Connecticut that will be announced soon that will provide people age 50 and up some dollars to help go into manufacturing.
Oh, that's tremendous.
And then Goodwin College, we've had on the books for about, well, over a year now. Goodwin College provides AARP members with a 25% tuition scholarship into almost all of their programs, but we have a really successful story of a 54-year-old female veteran who had been laid off in banking, who was struggling to figure out what she's going to do, heard about how much was going on in manufacturing in Connecticut and how many jobs there were open, simultaneously hears about the 25% scholarship we have. She lives in East Hartford. She utilized the scholarship. She was able to combine it with some veterans benefits, and she has now gone from laid off in the banking industry without being able to find a job to working full-time in manufacturing.
Oh, that's terrific. So I'm curious, what industries, you know, in manufacturing have jobs available? Because, you know, I think most people think that all manufacturing jobs are elsewhere around the world and not here.
We have about 13,000 in-demand jobs open right now with an anticipation of 25 to 30,000 in the next 10 years. We are making things and we are putting things together in Connecticut.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so if you want to think the big scale, think of, you know, our aerospace industry, think of our submarine industry. If you want to think big scale but stuff that people don't think about is tiny little precision medical parts. So your knee replacement is an engineered product.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
And that's manufactured here?
We've got medical devices being manufactured here.
Absolutely fantastic.
It's actually one of Connecticut's burgeoning industries.
That's great to know.
Yeah, so we bring in stuff and assemble it, but we also manufacture it. And these are jobs that are in demand. And we do a lot of work with age 50 plus job seekers, both online, so people can definitely access at aarp.org/work, but also in person with skill development seminars that we run around the state. But this is really, you know, going back to school is a choice people make sometimes, right? When they're older, you might say, I'm going to go get my MBA. But a lot of people aren't in a position to go back for 2, 3, 4 years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
This is like 6-month turnaround.
This is great. Not only that, I mean, you know, it's proven in the literature that if you keep your mind active, especially formal education, that you could reduce your risk of cognitive decline.
Absolutely.
So that's why that's so essential. It's such a great initiative that AARP has.
And one thing, you know, there's this, like there is this image and stigma about aging, there's an image and stigma about manufacturing. Manufacturing is clean as a hospital. Okay, maybe not hospital. I'll go with something cleaner. What's the cleanest thing you can think of?
I don't really want to go there. Let's not discuss that.
Think of an A-rated, perfect professional kitchen. You can't have, these places are, it's like using an iPad to build tiny little precision parts. And it takes math skills, but they're going to give them to you. It takes education, but I mean, it's really nice to know that people have an opportunity. They're getting hired. Everybody's getting hired who goes through these programs.
That's really great to know. And, you know, I love that idea about the retired person coming into the classroom because it gives younger people this idea of this intergenerational relationship and the value that an older person can provide.
The value of experience.
Right. There's nothing like it. That's why they say youth is wasted on the young, right?
I know.
Been there, done that. So those are all terrific initiatives. There's something else that you know, we were talking about before the show and that I read about, which is has to do with telemedicine.
Yeah.
So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because it's really very, very important.
Yeah. So we have advocacy agendas, and then we have sort of education and outreach agendas at AARP. Our buckets of work have a tendency to fall into 3 categories: health, wealth, so your finances,
right,
and self. So your personal development, whatever makes you happy, whatever helps you, you know, reach your real possibilities in life, in work, and in retirement. One of our advocacy agenda items in Connecticut and at the federal level and in states across the country is on telehealth, telecommunications, and broadband. So one of the things we focus on, and we've got some really interesting relationships here in community that help us focus on that, is that we want people to be healthy. People are living longer. We know that, let's give a rural example, because I think that's really easy to focus on. So in a rural community where there are less people, and we know that hospitals, for instance, community hospitals are going under left and right in rural America, and we're getting bigger healthcare conglomerates.
And doctors, you know, don't really want to service those more rural communities.
Yeah, you know, I mean, they just can't keep the doors open.
Correct.
So that's a kind of place where telehealth is the most important, right? You need to see your doctor, but you might be able to do it through the internet.
Right.
Through, you know, whether you're doing a video chat or whether you're connecting a device. So a strong, healthy, accessible, affordable broadband access system across the United States is really important, so that we can advance these telehealth, less expensive, right, reliable, gives people opportunities to give real-time feedback to their doctors, so that you may not need to see your cardiologist if you had a heart attack very often, if your cardiologist can get real-time information and then be in contact with you if something doesn't look good on your numbers, right? So you're connecting an implanted device through your telephone landline in some cases, so we can't get rid of telephone landlines until there's broadband to replace it, and we also need to make sure that people don't have to go back in and have different procedures because our communication systems don't match up with the reality of what we have today.
Oh, those are really terrific initiatives.
Yeah, I mean, it's money saving, it's time saving, it's life saving.
Absolutely.
And it also really helps the family caregiver, right? So if you're caring for your older loved one who may live right here in the same city you do, or may live across town, or may live in Puerto Rico, or in California, who knows, right? In Florida. Right. Your ability to connect and to help monitor telehealth through apps, to connect with doctors so that you don't have to be there to leave work, to get to in-person appointments. Which would be tremendous
peace of mind for caregivers because that's such a stressful situation, as we both know.
You know, if you can avoid having to leave your job and potentially leave, you know, unless we pass paid family and medical leave, which we're working on, unless, I mean, not everyone can leave their job. If they leave their job, they lose their pay.
Well, and that's true. That's another important topic
Yeah.
about caregiving, and there are productivity issues that are involved with people who are caregivers.
Yeah.
More and more people are caregivers. I think there are 40 million actually caregivers around the country,
Yeah,
and
459,000
Right.
here in Connecticut.
Right,
Yeah.
and 40% of them are a caregiver for 30 hours or more.
Yep.
And I read that like 25% also have job responsibilities outside of the home and are caring for somebody under 18 years of age, and that's called the sandwich generation. And it's very, very stressful.
Yeah. So in Connecticut, because I've got the national numbers, but we've done a lot of research on this in Connecticut, the average caregiver is a 52-year-old female caring 20 or more hours a week for the older loved one with people under 18 in the house.
Right.
And working full time. And
Correct.
she is ready to collapse.
Absolutely. They're stretched and stressed.
Yeah.
Beyond belief. I mean, it's such a struggle, and a lot of people struggle internally. They don't even talk to anybody about it. And then, a boss doesn't know why the person isn't as productive, why they seem preoccupied, why they're taking days off. Actually, there are a lot of companies that are doing training on caregiving. I've done some myself, but I know that AARP has a tremendous initiative for caregiving training.
Yeah, we can take training to people in companies, do lunch and learns. We've got resources online that are free to everyone. And that's another thing I wanted to mention. We are a membership organization. We're a social mission organization with a membership. And the membership is age 50 and up. But there are associate memberships that a lot of people pick up who are under 50 because they are interested in these resources and what they can do to help the people they're serving. Maybe they're maybe they're a social worker, or the people that are in their company, because they know there are resources available and they know their employees can be feeling pressures from outside.
I find that very interesting because I don't think that, of course, that was many years ago because I'm a number of years over 50, but I certainly have worked in many skilled nursing facilities with many different people of different ages, and I don't think people under 40 are that aware that they can avail themselves of some kind of associate membership to, understand what the benefits and services are.
They can, and I would encourage people of all ages to also to look at what we have if you're trying to figure out, what the latest resume needs to look like for you, right? I mean, if you haven't done one in 5 years, you need to look.
Correct.
To find out what you might have that could help you with your job, whether you're trying to help yourself or you're trying to help your employees, but also the fact that all of these resources we have are generally free to everyone, membership or not.
That's terrific.
Yeah, so because we are a social mission organization, our mission is to serve everyone, the greater good, and so we don't lock down much, and in our events are free. Very few of them, there are some restrictions, but very few of them are for members only. So if we're having an educational seminar, everyone's welcome. If we're having a free day at the ballpark, actually welcome everybody. So, it's just a matter of checking our website. Connecticut has a specific website, which is aarp.org/CT. But aarp.org is open for just about anybody to explore and take the resources they need to help themselves and their loved ones.
So I have a question. Because there are over 15,000 skilled nursing facilities in this country, and I don't know how many of those people were members of AARP. Some of them, and also assisted living facilities. I don't know if some of them continue their membership.
Oh yes.
Do people in skilled nursing facilities, are they aware of some of the free programs that they could access, even online programs? Or are there any initiatives or partnerships?
Well, we certainly get invited into more around the, assisted living, or not so much the skilled nursing. We don't get invited into to present as often, but assisted living, we get invited in to present on all sorts of things. In particular, our AARP Fraud Watch Network. So you may live in a 55 and up community, for instance, right? But you're still out and about, active.
Right, absolutely.
Right? So you're just as susceptible to frauds and scams in that community as you were when you were living in your private dwelling that had no association over it, right? So there are a lot of people who work for those kind of companies or who organize the events and the social aspects of those things, who do ask us to come in and do presentations.
That's terrific.
And we are probably making, our volunteers are doing 90% of this, 10 to 15 presentations a week during the nice weather months.
That's terrific.
And most of them, 90% of those are because we've been invited in. So if you have a church, if you're a professional who wants us to come in and chat with your clients or your staff, if you run a civic organization of any kind, if you have a grandparents group, if you have a women's group, there are a ton of different resources that we can bring in, ranging from caregiving to work and jobs to fraud prevention to the Disrupt Aging program. We're doing work in universities across the state. We're actually, the intergenerational aspect of what we do is really important to us.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It's really huge. I mean, even in, there are initiatives in a lot of actually skilled nursing facilities where they're bringing in younger people to help, where the older people can tutor younger people, after school programs, or older people can go to after school programs and tutor youth. I mean, it's really great to see the two bonds in that way.
Quinnipiac is not the only place to do this, but over the last several years, we've been working with Quinnipiac in a variety of ways with a lot of universities. But Quinnipiac actually has a program where students go live in for a semester.
That is terrific.
Yeah, where they go live in the skilled nursing facility. They get their tuition. Their tuition's still there, but their room and board is covered through this program.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's interesting that you say that, if you don't mind me interrupting. I spoke with a gal out of, I want to say Minnesota, and she was an administrator in a skilled nursing facility, and I connected with her on LinkedIn. We wound up having a great conversation, and she did something like that when she was training CNAs, where they had to come and live in a facility, and not only just live there. It was really very interesting. They had to take on a diagnosis. They had to select a diagnosis and then take on the characteristics of that diagnosis and live in the facility, I think it was, for a week. And I was saying that when I worked in skilled nursing facilities and I used to do training, I was always trying to, do functional training to get people to understand what it's like to be, let's say, stuck in a wheelchair or have one side of your body and you can't move it, and, eat a certain kind of consistency diet. And I really wasn't very successful in getting people to be willing to let me train in that way, but I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a really good program, and the kids are, when they're done, they just have an entirely different outlook.
Right.
Which is, we are able to bring our Disrupt Aging classroom into universities, and I think we've been in 6 universities in Connecticut now, where the whole issue of the myth of aging and the stigma, we can bring in an interactive format into the classroom and help people students who are going through any program, because it's not just about people going into healthcare or aging.
Right, no, it's anything program.
And really start to think about the myths of aging, and it's been super successful, and we're able to take what we've done here in Connecticut, and we're going to be able to share it with AARP in other states so they can bring it into other universities. But the part about that is you can really impact significantly in a short time someone's understanding of aging and perception of it by doing some unique things with them. And when you think about manufacturing, you think about architecture, think about law, think about all the things.
Anything, actually.
Where you're not only thinking about your own thoughts on aging, right? But how do I apply this to my career? So if I'm an architect, do I think differently about how you build for
an older person as opposed to a younger person or a family starting out, or what modifications or accommodations that you have to make?
Or what about if we start building so it works for everybody all the time?
Right.
right?
Well, that's like, right. What a concept,
We can put
right?
the modification people right out of business if we just start going from
Well,
scratch.
I don't want to advocate putting it.
I think it'll be a while before our housing stock
I think you're right. But you know, I was reading a statistic that said actually that there are, I think it was 250,000. It might be more, but I think it was 250,000 of youth between the ages of 8 and 18 spend some time caring for an older adult.
Actually, the stats on millennials caring for older adults now is pretty staggering. I mean,
Right.
millennials are, if you think about it, I mean, they're in their 30s.
Right.
And their parents might have had them later.
Correct.
Then, you know, or their grandparents are around. There are caregivers come in every
Listen,
every age,
I can tell you from personal experience. I started out, I mean, I have the story in my book and I talk about it when I speak. I started out at 15 years old helping to care for my grandmother when my mother was away. So I certainly had that experience. And like you say, if there are people in their 30s or 40s and they have children at home and they have an older parent living with them, or they're spending some time, you know, caring for an older parent, then in all likelihood, the family is involved in it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I mean, it does take a family oftentimes to do this, or if someone moves in with you,
correct,
everyone is going to be involved. And you know, in some communities it hits harder than in others too, which you probably know. But you know, in the Hispanic and Latino community, the skilled nursing is not something that
like
people,
kind of like a taboo. Right.
And so there's a significant number of high school students who have a lot of responsibility for their grandparents or an older loved one, and the whole family's involved. Women have a tendency to have to take it on more.
Right, absolutely.
But you know, I mean, in some communities it's more than others, and in some communities, like in the Hispanic and Latino community, more of the family resources, dollar-wise, are being invested in that caregiving than in others.
Right.
So the financial impact is there. I mean, it's the reason we produce our caregiver resource guide in both English and Spanish. And in Connecticut, it's the reason why I took Puerto Rico's caregiver resource guide and I produced that in English and Spanish.
Oh, that's terrific.
And we give it out for free to anybody, and any professional anyone can download it for free. I mean, and because there are so many people here with loved ones on the island,
right,
who, especially after the hurricane,
I can only imagine.
And so, you know, navigating caregiving when you have the person in your house is complicated enough.
Right. At a distance, it's very, very difficult. Yeah. And there are other communities also, the Filipino community, the Haitian community. Yep. There are many communities where, you know, the cultural moray is that you keep your older loved one with you. I mean, there are always circumstances where maybe that isn't possible any longer, and that's just a whole other discussion. Yeah. But generally speaking, that's the culture, the expectation for the family. And that's another thing that becomes a whole other struggle, because people feel that pressure that they have to do that, and they want to do it, but then they have to do it, and then when they're juggling all of these balls, it's very, very difficult.
Yeah. I've got a couple of you know, volunteers who are around 50, female, in that exact circumstance, with kids in high school and working full-time, and you know, in jobs that have a lot of stress associated with them. And it's hard to watch, and I always keep my fingers crossed that I'm not going to be.
It's very tough. Yeah. So what other kinds of advocacy is AARP involved in from a government point of view? Yeah. Because, you know, I know it's an advocacy organization, and, you know, I myself, and I wanted to ask you this actually, you know, I'm affiliated, you know, or have knowledge of other advocacy groups like the National Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care, Agency on Aging, Leading Age, Long-Term Care Community Coalition. So, you know, I know some of the advocacy that they're involved in, so I'm sure AARP kind of works hand in hand with some of those, but what particular initiatives is AARP involved in? Yeah,
we do cooperate and collaborate with a lot of folks. Not always on the same page, though, with some of the advocates that you mentioned. Sometimes we are. You know, in the world of advocacy, which I've been in for a long time, my favorite term is no permanent enemies and no permanent friends.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because it's okay.
I don't know if that only applies to advocacy. I think that applies to a lot of things.
Actually, it is actually a lesson for a lot of life.
Right.
But so We try to focus on issues that are back to those buckets: health, wealth, and self. So, and some things that we are the leading consumer advocate on, like I talked about the telecommunications, for instance, but also on, in Connecticut in particular, if you think about the cost of energy, for instance, it's a place people don't necessarily expect to find us working, but we are actually the leading consumer advocate group on the high cost of energy, because that's not something you can go and you can skip, right?
Right.
If you're living on a fixed income, if the cost of living is going up everywhere else around you, and we can't do something about necessarily real estate prices,
right?
And I can't work on every single town's property tax, okay? But in a deregulated market like Connecticut has, in third-party electric suppliers, we have been working, well, first AARP, before I got there, fought deregulation. Deregulation, very rarely, if you look around the country, leads to lower costs in electricity, in
usually
energy.
Not, yes.
And so we developed in Connecticut a third-party electric supply market, and the amount of fraud, scams, misleading advertising, misleading contracts, slamming, the list goes on and on.
I've been a victim of it myself.
And so every year, it's like a game of whack-a-mole, but every year we get more and more consumer protections in place so that it's a fair market. And this is only, really, we don't worry about the non-residential market because there are some really big companies with a lot of space that are able to save a lot of money because of the third-party market. Very few residential customers do.
Right.
Yeah, and things happen like right now, you do not have to give affirmative consent if you're in the third-party market to get rolled over into a new contract without knowing what your contract is going to include.
Really?
Yeah, and I can't seem to get past a piece of legislation that says affirmative consent. But
that's strange.
Yeah, but the contracts in the third-party electric supply market do not run coterminously with the standard offer. So the standard offer changes every 6 months, but you're very rarely going to see a contract that runs at the same time as the standard offer.
I got you.
So the standard offer could drop significantly, but you're in a contract that still has
a higher rate,
yeah.
And you
which
can
is why
switch. Right.
the Attorney General, the Consumer Council in Connecticut, and many advocacy groups have called for an end to the third-party market for the residential supply. So people don't expect to see us there, but it's a really significant pocketbook issue, and it's a really significant issue for people who have to spend more of their, I'm going to say paycheck, right, but their income, their monthly income on energy than I do, for instance. So I have the same energy bill as the person who lives down the road from me, probably, who's on Social Security alone.
Yeah.
So my percentage and their percentage are way out of whack.
Correct.
And I want people to be able to stay in their homes, to live independently, to pay their property taxes, to be a part of their community, and they can't do that if there's unscrupulous practices happening that are taking their hard-earned money out of their pocketbook.
Oh, so that's a terrific initiative. And I know there's another one you're involved in with the Connecticut Supplemental Retirement.
It's the Connecticut Retirement Security Program.
Right.
So in 2016, we passed a piece of legislation that mandates that anybody with 5 or more employees provide payroll deduction for retirement savings. They can do that on their own. If you're already doing that, you're totally compliant with the law. But if you're not doing that, and there's about 600,000 employees who do not have a way to save, to set it and forget it at work for retirement, you're going to have to start providing that. There's the vendors will be chosen shortly who are going to do this. We're going to be starting implementation of this with companies that raise their hand and say, I want to take the easy button solution to this, which is that there will be a program that you can sort of just say, hey, I'll sign up for what you have, and all of my employees will start to get the automatic savings into a Roth IRA. So it's not the perfect retirement vehicle for everyone, but it's what we could get done in this particular case. So, and it has the same exact Roth IRA laws as any Roth IRA. It is yours. You own it. It goes with you for the rest of your life. And no matter what job you have in Connecticut, your employer will be able to contribute not contribute. We'll be able to, they're not contributing. That's not what they're not doing. We'll be able to start your payroll deduction into that account. So,
no matter what job you,
no matter what job
it travels with you. In
yeah,
other
as
words.
long as it's a company with 5 or more employees, they're going to be required to do this. It's really no cost to the employer at all, and they're prohibited from contributing under IRA law.
Okay.
So they just have to set it so that their employees can do this. So that, and this is an opt-out program, but the best part about this opt-out is that more people will start to save. They can change their adjustments as long as it's within IRA law, and people who now don't have this set it and forget it opportunity to save can start saving in small increments from the day they start working all the way to the day they retire.
So is it mandated?
It is mandated that it be provided.
Okay, so a company, does every company know about this?
Well, it's not rolled out yet.
Oh,
so they
they
don't know about it, right? So they may know that it's out there, some may have awareness, some may not, but they haven't had to start doing it yet.
And when will it go into effect?
Well, the law is in effect now, and so what the hope is that the first companies that raise their hand to volunteer to do it, to start it,
I see.
to test and learn it, begin in 2019.
Okay.
We have companies lined up who are excited about it.
That's
who
awesome.
want to be able to provide their employees with something, who don't have the, it costs money to start a retirement plan for your employees.
It does.
This is the no-cost solution for them.
That's great.
To say, this is a little bit extra that we can do in Connecticut to provide a benefit for employees. But the best part about this, right, is that as we do this and we go generationally through people in this program, we're going to have people saving for retirement who never saved for retirement before. And people who need to go on state or federal programs in retirement becomes less and less because they have that third leg of retirement.
Right, that they started from such an early age.
Yeah.
That's really terrific.
If you got your first job at 17 or 18 years old, you can start saving for retirement.
That's terrific.
And what is going to happen is that people will have to choose to opt out if they don't want to do it. Otherwise, it'll be preset and it'll roll.
Right.
And
so that's interesting because, I'm thinking about that. Like, why would somebody want to opt out? And
there's a misunderstanding about what saving for retirement means. There's a mistrust of some people. Some people will say, I simply can't afford it. And what we're hoping is that people think about it, maybe do 1%. Once it's gone and you don't see it every week, it's a small amount, but it builds up.
That's true.
Really well.
What's the book? Is it As a Man Thinketh, or is?
I don't know.
Oh gosh, I forgot the name of the book. I don't know why all of a sudden, but where you're supposed to pay yourself first. In other words, take a certain amount and put it aside, and like you're paying yourself first.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the same premise, only you're paying yourself for later.
Yeah, you're paying yourself for later, so that when you do live to be 100 years old, you don't have to work until 98.
Right. Oh, gee, why didn't I start?
People are 15 times more likely to save for retirement if they do it via payroll deduction. People do not walk in, $35,000 a year people, right, do not walk in and open up an account that does not eat every single thing they put into it.
That's true.
Right? But this is an opportunity to level that playing field for people in all sorts of careers, in all sorts of ages.
That's terrific.
And across the state. And it's one of the things I'm the proudest of in the work we've done, because it really, it's going to be an opportunity for a small business owner to say, this is so great, look what we can do for you.
That really is terrific.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I mean, AARP has such wonderful initiatives. Can you think of anything else that you'd like to share? I think a lot of people know about the discounts, like restaurants and theater and travel, but are there some that you think, others that people don't know about?
I think that people don't know about what we do locally. So locally, I'm able to sign member offers at a variety of arts and culture organizations across the state. And so, and then again, of course, we have the Goodwin College 25% tuition scholarship. There's 15% scholarship at Albertus Magnus for members. All you have to do is have me verify your membership to the school, and you can get it. That's real money. Right. But if you talk about Connecticut Beardsley Zoo, the Mystic Aquarium, Mystic Seaport, Theater Works, Guard Art Center. The list goes on and on. The Klein Auditorium. I mean, all over the state.
That's terrific. So is that on your website if people
Yeah,
want to
we have a
look it up?
separate website for that, which is AARP.org/CT discounts.
Oh, okay.
I just signed with the Long Wharf Theater.
Oh, I love that theater.
Yeah,
I've
and
been
these
there.
are like little, it's great to be able to, we're not paying them for these. They're offering these to our members because they want to bring our members and their guests. You can bring a guest for the same discount into
That's
these places.
interesting. See,
Yeah.
I never knew
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
So if I go to the movies, let's say, or I go someplace that offers a senior discount.
not a senior discount, an AARP
I mean an
member
AARP,
discount. Yes.
an AARP member discount. Okay. So then I'm entitled to
buy another ticket for your guest at the same
Wow.
discount.
So now, how do you differentiate between a senior discount? You'd have to show your driver's
I don't
license.
care
guess.
what
Well,
anybody is doing with a senior discount. That is everybody's business. But the minute my name goes on it,
Right, I get
there's
it.
agreement rules, and
I get it.
there's codes, and you can and they all agree that you can bring a guest, and these are just organizations in Connecticut. And the other great thing that happens is that I like to pay it forward to our local offer organizations.
Right.
So, for instance, we have free Fourth Fridays at the Connecticut Beardsley Zoo for this year and most years, but this year in 2019, it's May through September.
Oh, that's a great grandchild.
Yep.
Outing.
So the member gets to go for free. If you're bringing your grandchild, you can use our regular discount. But then, for instance, at the Long Wharf Theater, we had a nice pre-reception happy hour for the people who used our offer in our introductory day, that we
that's
decided to open
awesome.
it up. I have flat out bought full-blown theater tickets for hundreds and hundreds of people at our variety of different theater locations. So it's actually like you register with me, and when you get there, you see me. I check off your name, and I give you a free ticket to see the play.
So let me just ask you this question, because I don't know if other people are thinking what I'm thinking. I'm thinking maybe there is some confusion, because I thought I didn't get my AARP card actually until a few years ago, because I associated it with being whatever age.
Yeah.
So, what does AARP do to educate people about the fact that they can really benefit from these services from the age of, let's just say the 50 years old who aren't associate members but full-fledged members, because you're not differentiating any longer, and never were maybe, between people that are retirees or they're just members.
Yep.
Period. They're just members. So how are you, educating people about that?
Well, I'm here.
Right. Well,
Right.
we have you here.
There's
That's
that.
great.
We are able to, every time we go anywhere, which is constantly. So if I'm at the Puerto Rican Day Parade, or I'm at a day at the ballpark where I have bought our members and their guests, or actually anybody who signs up, I don't restrict on that one. So we're at the Yard Goats, right?
Right.
So at the Yard Goats, when I buy all these nice tickets, I also get a table in the concourse. So all the people
awesome.
that didn't get free tickets see me there.
Oh, okay.
So there's several thousand people who can walk by, and I showcase to them what our
Right.
upcoming events are. We talk about the kind of services we have, the kind of advocacy work we're doing. I'll ask them if they'll sign my prescription to help reduce not my prescription.
petition
They'll
to
sign my
reduce-
petition.
That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, to send to their congressperson
Right.
about reducing the high cost of prescription drugs. I'll
Right.
engage with people in opportunities that I can see non-members.
Right.
Right, so we have direct communication with our members. Sometimes you'll get an email from me if you sign up for our emails. Even if you're not a member, you can go to aarp.org/CT and sign up to get emails from us, which we use to talk about events that are coming up in your area. So if you live near the ballpark, maybe within 20 miles, you'll probably get an email from me.
Oh, great.
If you sign up. I can't email you if I don't have your email address.
Correct.
But we can do postcards, we can do phone calls, we do advertising, we do stuff like this. And then, like I said, when there's an opportunity for us to be out at public events, engaging members of the public who are a combination of our members and non-members, I'm bringing the information to showcase all of the things that we have that are available to anyone and that are available to members.
That's terrific.
Yeah, and I mean, we want to engage everybody. I'm not going to reduce the high cost of prescription drugs in Connecticut or in America unless I have as many people as I possibly can. When you ask about advocacy, we have an advocacy effort at both federally and at the state level on these issues, and that's something that does affect age 50 plus, but
Actually,
it affects children.
It affects everybody. You know, actually, I was glad to hear you say what you just did, because I was going to ask you about that. I know other organizations really encourage their membership, or, you know, whoever visits their site on occasion, to sign letters and send to their legislators, whether they're state or federal legislators. So I was happy to hear you say that you encourage people to do that. I'm sure it's not just around prescription drugs.
Oh, no,
I'm
it's
sure
not.
it's around other areas as well.
So we have, there's a lot of ways to do that, but we actually have also people, members and not, who sign up to be e-advocates for us. So when you sign up to be an e-advocate, I get to do this really awesome thing, which is email you and saying, can you tell your legislator and the governor that you want XYZ? And we have a system that allows us to email those people who have said, I think your advocacy is important, and they take action at a level that is
that's
really
terrific.
Good.
So do you send them like letters to sign?
I'll send them an email, and the email generates, they can customize something to go to their legislators.
That's terrific. That's so important.
We also have things that go in the mail, but I mean, I can activate thousands of emails in a matter of 24 hours.
Oh, that's terrific, because, you know, I'm a big proponent of the fact that it's not just advocacy organizations, it's grassroots advocacy. It's people that make their voices heard, and together, you know, that's how you can impact change.
And of course we use social media.
Right.
I mean, we've got thousands of followers on our Facebook and our Twitter. Anyone can find us at AARP CT on those channels, and that's where also they're going to get, you know, that's my least expensive, most effective means of communicating with people, because I can pay to promote.
Right.
Or I can just have it to the people who, you know, happen to run across it. But when I have big free events, when I have a big issue I want people to take action on, of course I use those sites as well. And so, I mean, most everybody's on social media these days, and, you know, it's a way to engage in the way that you choose to engage with us. And you may say, I didn't know that AARP gave out an award every year to an age 50 plus super volunteer.
Oh, cool.
And I know a super volunteer, and that award comes with $3,000 to the super volunteer winning contestant's charity of choice.
Oh, that's terrific.
So maybe you're running a little nonprofit, and you're like, I have got this volunteer.
That's just phenomenal.
And I'm going to fill out an application and nominate this person, and then they win. And you get a check for $3,000 for your nonprofit.
That's very cool. Yeah. So I have a question about what you just said, because you said about social media. Do you find that a lot of older people are availing themselves or accessing social media, do you think?
And we, my volunteers, 90% of them have a smartphone in their hand. When they're out in the public, we can take real-time feedback with apps that AARP created for staff and volunteers to interact with, you know, if you're having a compliment or a concern, I can take it.
I like that.
And then I tell the person who I'm talking to, oh, did you know AARP has an app where you can look at upcoming events, you can read the news, you can play games, those are getting downloaded regularly. We have a number of podcasts that are national, that are happening, that people are downloading every day. We have the social media sites. We have lots of social media sites. Every state has its own social media site. National has. We have them for different groups, sort of cohorts of AARP membership. I'm finding people to be very active, very tech savvy, and don't forget, we're talking about age 50 and up for our general membership.
That's true.
I mean,
so 50s, 60s, most people are, you know, more acquainted with social media now and more comfortable with it.
And I mean, most of our membership is done online now.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's almost. I have a registration link for all of my events that is found at aarp.org/CT. The bulk of our registrations for events come in via the internet, not the phone. Very rarely are people calling in to register for things. They're using the internet.
Right.
Like,
I
mean,
guess
it's just,
I think I'm old-fashioned, though. I still make phone calls.
you can make a phone call. We've got that
I
opportunity.
do it
too.
online, but I have to tell you, I still make phone calls. I
Yeah.
like talking to
Yeah.
people.
I mean, I think most people would probably prefer to just click and sign up for something than call a call center to sign up for an event, right?
It's a little easier. It goes quicker, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
you're sitting there,
Right.
doing whatever, and you're like, oh, that sounds good. I would love to go to AARP Day at the winery.
Right. Oh, I'd like to go to
Well,
AARP.
I have it annually.
Oh, okay.
And so
I think I missed the last one.
What generally happens, right, is we try to mix fun with purpose.
Right.
So we call it at my office sugar medicine. So the sugar is that I'm not going to throw a bad event.
Right.
Okay, you're going to have a meal, you're going to have a drink, you're going to see a movie, you're going to, whatever the case may be, right, at no cost to you, but I am going to say, listen, this is the really important thing we're working on. I want you to know about it.
Right.
Or I want you to sign this petition. And most people are happy to do that.
Right.
And most people are just happy to learn about the places we're going to be and the things we're going to be doing, and to take that information home and digest it and maybe take an action, maybe not. I'm not going to say, if you come to the winery, you have to sign my petition.
Well, of course not. Right.
Right? But I am going to say, I'd love for you to sign my petition.
Yeah,
and
and
most
you
of
would-
the time, you're going to say,
Sure.
you know
why
what?
not? Why
the cost
not?
of prescription drugs is super high, and I don't want it to be anymore.
Right, right.
So I will sign this.
Right.
And then we're going to tell your congressman and your senator that, look how important this is to you.
Right. I mean, it's like you said. I mean, it's not only about prescription drugs, but it could be a variety of issues that are. It is a great example that are important to the senior community and their families. But like you said, prescription drugs especially is important for anybody, because you could have a child who's taking prescription drugs.
And the thing that, when you talk about the for everybody, if we go back to the Connecticut Retirement Security Program, I'm not marketing to people who are retired.
Right.
I'm marketing to people who are hopefully at any point in their work life, but the younger, the better.
Correct.
Right? So when I do my outreach effort on that, we found a strategy that works really well to reach younger people, which is we go to breweries when they're open.
Oh, that's
And the brewery lets us set up, we do these quizzes. So you have to go to a couple of stations and take a quiz about the retirement crisis in America and what you can do about it and what it can mean to you and what Connecticut is doing. And so you take your bingo card, basically, right? And if you want the free beer and the free pizza, and I'm registering people in advance, but I'm also saying, hey, you guys are here for trivia night. Come over here and see me. Let me educate you a little bit about something, and you're going to get what you were here for anyway, but you're going to get the first one free.
But the good thing about that is it's getting people to think about themselves in the future. It's getting people to think about the fact that there is going to be a growing number of older people. I mean, I think it's by the year 2035, there will be more people 65 and older than 18 and under in this country. So, like you said, most people, I shouldn't say most people, but many people, have parents, some have, grandparents, some have great-grandparents. So I think people are more aware that there are more older people around. There isn't anybody that I talk to that doesn't say they know somebody who has somebody in their family that's 80 or 90, maybe even approaching 100. And people are more vibrant nowadays, so people are out and about doing different activities. I ballroom dance. I had a dance teacher about a year or so ago. I mean, he's a legend in the ballroom dance world, but he still teaches, and I'm sure he's at least 80 years old. And he's still dancing around the dance floor. It's really quite terrific.
I always say stop moving and die. That's the thing, right? You want to stay active. I mean, that's why we've got, my volunteers are all clad in athletic wicking shirts, and we sign up for 5Ks together, and we do all sorts of things. And people, it's an attention grabber when you see a bunch of 50 plus, 65 plus, 70 plus year olds in a race all wearing the same shirt that says disrupt aging.
That's terrific.
You get people who want to take pictures with you. But it's really important that we focus on again, it's fun with purpose. We want people to be healthy. We want them to be happy. We want them to have enough money in their day-to-day life when they're working and in their retirement to live the quality of life so that they can accomplish the things they want to accomplish. Whatever their real possibilities are to them, you know, we've got a tool for it, and we want to help people meet those goals. So I could talk for days about the variety of things we have, because when you have 38 million members, you have a lot of unique needs and opportunities out there, right?
Absolutely.
It's not everything everybody agrees on. Almost everybody agrees that probably we could bring the cost of prescription drugs down.
I think that's pretty universal.
But, you know, everybody doesn't always agree on the solution to get there.
Absolutely.
And everybody doesn't not everybody wants to go to a winery, but maybe they want to go to a ball game, or maybe they want to see an opera.
Right.
Or,
absolutely.
you know,
different strokes for different
exactly.
folks. I mean, everybody has different
Which
tastes.
is why we have to have so much variety in what we do and try to meet people where they are and communicate with them in the way that they're comfortable. So if you're not comfortable with social media or the internet, you're still going to get, as a member, the AARP magazine in the mail. You're still going to get the AARP bulletin in the mail.
Right.
Right? If you like to read that online,
you can read
we can do that for you too.
Right.
Right? And so, listen, and as you can imagine, the world of digital is a less expensive way to communicate with people.
Absolutely. Right.
So for us, you know, that's a really great way to expand how we talk to people and who we talk to on a pretty, you know, you can't send everybody. If I have 600,000 members in Connecticut, it's really expensive to send them all a postcard.
Yeah, I would say so. Especially when the cost of postage is going up, I think, again.
And, you know, we have, and the nice thing that I think people understand about us when they get to know us, too, is that we're not going to email you every single day. Right? I'm only allowed to email you once a week. And
I think that's great, because when you get bombarded with emails, you know, you don't even read them after a while. You just click delete.
And I try to be very clear about what's from Connecticut and what's coming from national, what's advocacy and what's not advocacy, everything's separated out. I always say the power of delete is a much more powerful tool than never knowing what you had as an opportunity.
I agree with you 100%.
I mean, you know, everyone always has a complaint. I get too much mail, I get too much email.
Right.
But I want to make sure you understand the value that we can provide you with. You know, a membership is under $20 a year.
Right.
By the time you get done going to see our movies for grown-ups pre-screening for free, by the time you go enjoy the ball game, by the time you go and hear an AARP Fraud Watch presentation, by the time you invite us into your church so that we can bring a free and useful tool to your community, and then by the time you meet me at the winery, I mean, that's way more than the value than you paid, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's the kind of thing we try to do, both from a national perspective and from a state perspective.
So that's, I mean, this has been a wealth of information. I mean, it's just been terrific.
Well, I'm glad to be able to be helpful. And like I said, AARP.org or AARP.org/CT. AARP.org, one of my volunteers called the Google for age 50 plus. Because you can pop just about anything in and get it. Yeah.
Right.
So, but I definitely encourage people to take a look at our events and what we can bring to their community.
Oh, well, this has just been terrific, Nora. I really appreciate you
me.
being here. So thanks for tuning in today. Hope you enjoyed the show. This is Phylis Ayman saying goodbye until we see you next time on The Golden Years, Understanding Better Living.